Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching Gravitas. I'm Molly Gambhir. Let's get started. Our top focus tonight on Gravitas is on US President Donald Trump's major decision to impose that $100,000 fee on new H-1B visa applications. While we discuss the implications, get you the reactions, we also tell you what looks like a blow for India's tech sector could actually turn into an opportunity. This is coming up in just a bit. Also on the show for you tonight, Gravitas special on the big question of how Asia's so-called dirty money is finding a route to London. A shocker from Pakistan where its bombs have killed its own civilians. We get you the latest from on the ground. All this and more coming up.
Phase one. John, you have?
US President Donald Trump has done it again. He has taken a decision that's not just controversial, but in a way reckless. Over the weekend, Trump sent shockwaves with that decision to impose a massive $100,000 fee on new H-1B visa applications. The visa fee hike has sparked panic, confusion. Not surprisingly, because the move disproportionately targets skilled professionals from India in a way. And we are talking about some of the most highly skilled professionals who keep America's tech engine running. This is not just another visa fee hike. The decision is a threat to hundreds of thousands of careers. It risks tearing apart business models of America's own tech giants, companies that survive on Indian talent. And guess what? The markets got the message. Nifty 50 slipped, BSE Sensex dropped. In fact, the IT index plunged 3%. Infosys, TCS, Tech Mahindra, Wipro, all losing thousands of crores in market capitalization on Monday. All because Donald Trump wanted to look tough on immigration. But here's the thing. Trump may have just shot himself in the foot. What looks like a devastating blow for India's tech sector could actually turn into an opportunity. What's America's loss could be India's gain. The visa fee hike has been framed as a bid to protect American jobs, but the numbers don't lie. Here's a look at these figures on your screen. The top 5 approved H-1B visa beneficiaries last year: India, China, the Philippines, Canada, South Korea. And here's the thing, 71% of the approved H-1B visas went to Indians. And the suddenness of the move, of course, did cause some initial confusion over whether the fee would actually also apply to existing visa holders. Companies even advised the affected employees to return to America immediately and avoid overseas travel. But then, a day after Trump's announcement, the White House clarified that the fee would apply only to new applicants starting in the next lottery cycle. But the damage was already done. Confusion, panic, corporate scrambling. And that's the Trump playbook in a nutshell, in a way. Shoot first, think later, it seems. Here's a look now at the graphic on your screen. The biggest users of H-1B visas relying on the program to bring in skilled talent from overseas. Leading that list, Amazon, Microsoft, Meta, Apple, Google. And as you can see, the largest users of H-1B visas are not budget outsourcing firms. They are America's own tech powerhouses. This is data from US Citizenship and Immigration Services. Amazon, the top beneficiary of the H-1B visa program, securing around 10,000 visas. Under the new $100,000 visa fee, that level of hiring would translate into a staggering $1 billion cost for Amazon in just 1 year's applications. And it's not just tech companies, even American universities and hospitals, from Stanford to California, depending on H-1B visa holders for lecturers and research staff. We are talking about some of the brightest people in their fields. And these are not cheap replacements, of course. They are the brains behind America's tech dominance. The best minds in AI, chip design, cloud services. This is the talent Trump is pricing out. Trump is not just punishing Indians. He is, in a way, handicapping his own companies. And for India, this could be a moment that could be transformative. Already, voices are calling this a once-in-a-generation opportunity for India to move beyond outsourcing into frontier tech innovation. In an op-ed written for The Economic Times, Mohandas Pai, chairman of RN Capital, and Nisha Hola, research fellow, have said that, I'm quoting, the bigger prize lies beyond services. In fact, India must use this moment to pivot from IT outsourcing to frontier product innovation. They say the government should establish a sovereign 50 crore rupee deep tech fund to back IT, semiconductors, dev tech, synthetic biology and other sectors, rooted through AIFS. Procurement reform is equally urgent. US deep tech industries scaled on government demand, quote unquote. Meanwhile, India's startups still face bureaucratic bottlenecks and risk-averse buyers. Unlocking procurement would unleash India's latent innovation capacity, quote unquote. On Saturday, in fact, former Niti Aayog CEO Amitabh Kant said the move could boost India's talent-driven growth. Kant said that restricting global talent would redirect labs, patents, innovation and startups to Indian cities. And because of that, America's loss could become India's gain. He wrote on X, I'm quoting, Donald Trump's $100,000 H-1B visa fee will choke US innovation and turbocharge India's. By slamming the door on global talent, America pushes the next wave of labs, patents, innovation and startups to Bangalore and Hyderabad, Pune and Gurgaon. India's finest doctors, engineers, scientists, innovators have an opportunity to contribute to India's growth and progress towards Viksit Bharat. America's loss will be India's gain, quote unquote. In fact, analysts are saying that India's big opportunity lies beyond IT services. They say this is the time to shift towards innovation in AI, semiconductors, defense tech, synthetic biology. So Donald Trump may think that he's making America great again, but with policies like this one, he's only making America smaller. But let's just be clear, this is not about protecting American jobs. It's about Trump playing to his MAGA base, and in the process, choking America's own innovation. And this is the moment for New Delhi to act. India already has the talent, the energy, and with America turning inward, India has a chance to position itself as the next global hub for advanced tech innovation. And we're now shifting focus to Pakistan. The war on terror has taken a rather brutal turn. Nation's military, sworn to protect its own people, has unleashed fury on its own soil. In a horrifying act of violence, Pakistan bombed a village in the name of security, killing dozens of its own people. In Pakistan's Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, the Pakistan Air Force, with its Chinese-made jets, unleashed a wave of strikes. 30 people lost their lives, among them women and children. Former Prime Minister Imran Khan's party, PTI, tweeted these images saying 5 houses were destroyed and that at least 20 bodies have been recovered from the rubble so far. The military claimed to be targeting a Tehreek-e-Taliban bomb factory. The reality on the ground seems to be far more chilling. The bombs designed for precision instead pulverized a village with innocent civilians, reducing homes to rubble and turning a community into a mass grave in a way. Pakistan's Human Rights Commission, in fact, has demanded an immediate and impartial inquiry into the incident and measures to hold to account those responsible as well. In a scathing remark, it says, the state is constitutionally bound to protect all civilians' right to life, which it has repeatedly failed to secure. Monday's attack followed a TTP ambush in South Waziristan in which 12 Pakistan soldiers were reportedly killed. Another 4 were injured. The Pakistan military is trying to push back the TTP's control of the province, which has strengthened after the Taliban returned to power in Afghanistan in 2021. But in doing so, the Pakistan forces have been repeatedly accused of targeting innocent civilians. This is a state at war with itself, a grim paradox where the military's fight against terror comes at the cost of its own people. And this is not just a mistake, it's the tragic consequence of a state that has failed to protect its citizens and instead chose to turn its weapons on them. Next, we are taking you deep into what can be called a web of corruption and concealment. It's a tale that stretches from Southeast Asia all the way to London. For decades, London has been considered a safe haven for powerful figures who have plundered billions from countries where they lived and hidden it all behind the walls of London's most luxurious real estate, it seems. In Malaysia, Bangladesh, and beyond, investigations are once again focusing on Britain's role as a key player in a global money laundering operation. And at the center of it all, London's pristine properties, it seems. The mansions, office buildings, luxury flats, from the frozen assets of a Malaysian tycoon to property linked to Bangladesh's ousted leader, millions in questionable funds have allegedly been funneled. In fact, in 2020 alone, US authorities estimated that nearly $340 million of stolen money from Malaysia's 1MDB scandal made its way into Britain's property market. In May, the UK's National Crime Agency froze nearly $121 million in luxury property, which is believed to be owned by associates of Bangladesh's ousted leader, Sheikh Hasina. A subsequent investigation by Transparency International UK linked more than $540 million in property to Hasina's regime. All of this triggering a massive political fallout as well. After being implicated, Hasina's niece, Tulip Siddique, was forced to step down as a minister in Britain's finance ministry. The question also is, how did the UK become a prime destination for this so-called dirty money? Many argue the answer lies in a combination of lax regulations, offshore tax havens, and a legal system that's been slow to act. The collapse of Hasina's 15-year rule, toppled by student protests in August last year, has deepened the scrutiny of her finances while in power. Bangladesh's interim government, led by Muhammad Yunus, claiming a sum of $234 billion was looted during Hasina's tenure. Across Asia, the pattern is grimly familiar, it seems. In Singapore, in fact, the last of 10 Chinese nationals implicated in a $2.2 billion money laundering ring was jailed last year. Two of the accused are alleged to have purchased $56 million worth of central London property using an offshore vehicle to acquire property adjoining Oxford Street. As investigators continue to push forward, there are huge questions and serious concern hanging in the air over whether billions of dollars that should have gone into developing vital infrastructure, healthcare, education, were instead parked in luxury homes, leaving developing countries to suffer. And as the investigations continue, the world will be watching Britain closely for its alleged role in a global financial system that has long protected the powerful and left the vulnerable to pay the price. India entered the festive season today with a major economic reset as the government's next generation GST reforms came into effect. These sweeping changes, coupled with a renewed call for going for Swadeshi, expected to boost household savings and strengthen the economy. Starting today, daily essentials, popular food items, even vehicles and electronics expected to cost less. Roti, paneer, among other food items have been moved into the zero tax slab, while life and health insurance premiums are now GST exempt. Cars, two-wheelers, televisions expected to become more affordable. In fact, the finance minister had earlier announced the restructuring of the GST into two main slabs, 5% and 18%. Simplifying the system and providing relief to consumers. While the majority of products will now attract lower rates, a few categories have become costlier. For example, clothes priced above 2,500 rupees will now face an 18% tax as compared to the earlier 12%. As per analysts, businesses could also potentially face transition hurdles as the shift from the current GST framework to GST 2.0 will not happen overnight in a way. Companies are likely to need time to adapt to the revised rules, grasp the new tax slabs and upgrade their systems accordingly. And during this adjustment period, consumers may also experience inconsistent pricing or occasional billing errors until the operations fully stabilize. Ahead of the rollout, Prime Minister Modi yesterday addressed the country.
22 सितंबर को सूर्योदय के साथ ही नेक्स्ट जनरेशन जीएसटी रिफॉर्म्स लागू हो जाएंगे। एक तरह से कल से देश में जीएसटी बचत उत्सव शुरू होने जा रहा है।
Prime Minister Modi also said that due to reduction in GST, it will now be easier for the citizens of the country to fulfill their dreams, be it building a house, buying a TV, a refrigerator, or buying a scooter, bike, or a car. Traveling has also become cheaper as GST has been reduced on rooms in most hotels. The Prime Minister linked these reforms to the larger philosophy of Swadeshi, reminding the country that just as the Swadeshi mantra fueled the independence struggle, it must now drive prosperity. In fact, he underlined that many foreign-made items creep into daily use without notice and urged citizens to consciously prefer Indian-made goods. The call comes amid trade tensions with the United States as Washington has imposed 50% tariffs on Indian goods and recently also hiked the H-1B visa fees. And while Prime Minister Modi did not name America directly, his message was clear: to reduce dependence on foreign brands. Because even goods manufactured in India by multinational companies are Swadeshi, as they are built with Indian manpower, Indian factories and Indian dedication.
वो सामान खरीदें जो मेड इन इंडिया हो, जिसमें हमारे देश के नौजवानों की मेहनत लगी हो।
Prime Minister Modi in his address also highlighted that India will not only become self-reliant but will also emerge as a developed nation. The Prime Minister appealed to the citizens to embrace slogans like I buy Swadeshi and I sell Swadeshi, with tax reliefs in place and a renewed Swadeshi spirit. The push to power India's journey towards economic empowerment and inclusive growth this festive season also appears to be underway. Before we go on, here's a quick look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. A Gravitas special on how the ancient city of Kashgar in China's Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region is going through a major transformation into a tourism hotspot. You don't want to miss this. A bigger story on how the Gen Z is making its anger felt, revolting against governments. What is the story behind China's K visa? We tell you all that you need to know. All this and more coming up. US President Donald Trump turned Charlie Kirk's eulogy on Sunday into a MAGA rally. Trump hailed Kirk as a missionary with a noble spirit and a great purpose, and vowed during Kirk's memorial to carry on his work. Trump even admitted, "I hate my opponent," quote unquote.
A missionary with a noble spirit and a great purpose. He did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them. That's where I disagreed with Charlie. I hate my opponent, and I don't want the best for them.
Trump said the violence comes largely from the left, quote unquote. Though he did not provide evidence for that claim, the remarks often veered into the sharply partisan, standing in contrast to the more solemn tone of other speakers. The event was organized by Kirk's conservative youth advocacy group Turning Point USA and drew tens of thousands of mourners to the State Farm Stadium in Arizona. The messaging reflecting the nature of Kirk's memorial, which had the feel of a religious revival in a way, mixed with a Make America Great Again rally. Many attendees were dressed in red, white and blue. Some arrived before dawn to secure seats. Security was tight with metal detectors at the entrance. Kirk's friends and fellow conservatives remembered him as an inspirational Christian leader who founded a political movement they are determined to continue. Charlie Kirk's wife, Erica Kirk, who now heads Turning Point USA, delivered an emotional tribute highlighting her husband's devotion to Christianity, family and activism. The couple has 2 young children. Remember, Kirk was killed by a single bullet while speaking at a campus event. Authorities have charged a 22-year-old technology college student with the murder. Investigators say he told his romantic partner in text messages that he had killed Kirk because he had had enough of his hate, quote unquote. Erica Kirk also offered forgiveness to the 22-year-old charged with Kirk's murder, citing the Bible's teaching that Jesus urged his followers to forgive even those who harmed them, drawing a solemn applause from the crowd. Some political figures have framed Kirk's death as a turning point for the conservative movement. The White House advisor Stephen Miller delivered a fiery speech saying, quoting, "You have no idea the dragon you have awakened. You have no idea how determined we will be to save the civilization, to save the West, to save the Republic," quote unquote. In fact, the memorial also featured performances by leading Christian rock artists, giving the event a feel similar to a Sunday service. Hundreds swayed to the music, arms raised, tears streaming down their faces. President Trump's new $100,000 visa fee is pushing many young professionals to look for opportunities elsewhere. China seems to be answering that call with the introduction of the K visa, a new pathway aimed at attracting young talent in science and technology. So what's the story here? Starting October 1, the K visa will offer a flexible and accessible option for those looking to work and live in China. Unlike many other work visas, the K visa does not require employer sponsorship and allows for multiple entries and longer stays. So who can apply? The K visa basically targets young graduates with degrees in STEM fields from top universities, both in China and abroad. It also caters to professionals already working in teaching or research. But to be eligible, applicants need to meet age, education and experience requirements. They are also required to provide supporting documents like proof of qualification and professional engagement. The move is just the latest in China's larger effort to make its immigration policies more inviting. And in recent years, Beijing has relaxed entry rules, expanded visa-free access, and also signed agreements with 75 countries for reciprocal visa exemptions. And with over 38 million foreign trips to and from China in just the first half of 2025, this is a trend that's clearly gaining momentum. So with the American dream looking more uncertain for many, China is clearly setting the stage to be the next big destination, it hopes, for the world's brightest minds. Could this be the new path forward for ambitious young professionals? Only time will tell. China's so-called spy ship, Yuan Wang 5, has once again entered waters near India, raising security concerns in New Delhi. This ship, known for advanced satellite and missile tracking, had docked at Sri Lanka's Hambantota port 3 years ago, remember. Indian defense officials are watching its movements closely. The vessel was reportedly spotted last near Indonesia a few days ago and is now likely heading towards the Bay of Bengal. The timing of this surveillance vessel's presence is important to note here. India has issued a NOTAM restricting airspace in the Bay of Bengal between September 24 and 25, a step usually linked to missile testing. Crucially, Chinese vessel operating around Indian waters, not something new. Just 3 months ago, in fact, a Chinese research vessel, as it's called, was tracked operating covertly 120 nautical miles off India's east coast after disabling its automatic identification system reportedly. And this drew attention, especially as it was close to regions used for Indian missile testing, as well as naval and submarine operations. In March last year, a Chinese research vessel was also detected in the Bay of Bengal days before India was expected to test 2 nuclear-capable missiles, including the Agni 5 and the submarine-launched K-4 missile. The ship was reported to be 260 nautical miles off Visakhapatnam around that time. The Yuan Wang 5 belongs to the Chinese PLA Navy's latest fleet of space monitoring ships and carries multiple precision radar systems capable of monitoring the launch of new satellites, rockets, even intercontinental ballistic missiles. With a crew of more than 400 personnel, the ship has handled over 80 missions. The ship has handled over 80 missions since its induction in 2007, including monitoring China's manned space flights and lunar probes. Its earlier visit in August 2022 had stirred controversy when Sri Lanka allowed it to dock at Hambantota despite India's objections. That port itself remains strategically sensitive. As the ground war in Gaza intensifies, a deadly new chapter is unfolding. The Israeli Prime Minister is firm on his resolve to completely eliminate Hamas fighters from Gaza. But while the war continues, the world seems to be turning away from Israel's deadly strategy, with several countries joining the bandwagon of recognizing Palestine. More in this detailed report.
The suffering is a human tidal wave. An unbroken column of terrified Palestinians, their faces etched with despair, trudges south, escaping an Israeli assault on Gaza City. They carry their lives on their backs, mattresses, cooking pots, and screaming children.
Enough. We are tired. We no longer have the ability to walk. We will now walk for no less than 20 to 30 kilometers. And I have these belongings with me. Is it possible?
Enough, enough, enough. We have begun to wish to die. Death is better than this life because every day we die 1,000,000 times.
The deafening echo of artillery fire and the relentless airstrikes mark a desperate new phase in a war where victory for Prime Minister Netanyahu means only more bloodshed. While Israel presses a brutally aggressive ground campaign, a diplomatic jolt is shaking the globe.
We are acting to keep alive the possibility of peace and a two-state solution. That means a safe and secure Israel alongside a viable Palestinian state.
In a stunning rebuke of Israeli policy, the UK, Canada, Australia and Portugal have formally recognized a Palestinian state. This momentous shift signals a growing international consensus that Israel's war has gone too far. French President Macron defends his nation's move. In an interview to CBS, he says that without a political path, there is no end to this war, except that you kill everybody. He also calls for changes in the Palestinian Authority for a stable peace. With Netanyahu vowing to finish every last Hamas fighter, Macron's words are a haunting reminder of the brutal reality on the ground. As the assault on Gaza City intensifies, the Palestinian death toll has now crossed 65,000. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Nestled along the legendary Silk Road, the ancient city of Kashgar in China's Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region is undergoing a remarkable transformation. Once a bustling crossroads linking China with Central and South Asia, Kashgar is now emerging as a unique tourist hotspot where centuries of history meet modern revival. Kashgar was once a vital transportation hub, connecting China with Central Asia and South Asia in ancient times. And today, stepping into the newly revitalized Kashgar Ancient City scenic spot is like opening a window to a vibrant tapestry of history and modern renewal.
If the ancient city has not been renovated and upgraded, and if the supporting facilities have not been improved either, the tourist's experience will not be very good, and I think it will not naturally bring such tourism dividends, which concerns every one of us living in the Kashgar ancient city.
That was a cafe owner following the completion of the old city's renovation in 2016. He envisioned opening a cafe that honored the place's rich heritage, but with a modern touch. which is what everyone there seems to be doing. Spanning 8.36 square kilometers and home to over 200,000 residents, the old city faced serious challenges, worsening structures, safety hazards, and a pressing need for renovation. The local government there launched a revitalization plan, getting the residents engaged to ensure the project reflected their needs and aspirations and also preserved the city's historical fabric. And now, as Kashgar's charm grows, more young people are choosing to settle in its historic streets.
During the summer vacation, there are more tourists. I can get 8 to 12 orders in a day. Some of the tourists like the street scenes here.
Since 2019, the emerging profession of travel photography has also flourished in this scenic spot. Today, around 145 registered photo studios and approximately 800 photographers are helping capture the history and the vibrant energy of Kashgar, which allows visitors and locals alike to see the city's timeless splendor in a new light. And tourists are also noticing this.
The historical city is very beautiful, quite amazing. So just walking around and see the city, we really like it, yes.
And officials are eager to welcome more visitors as well. Listen to this.
We welcome more people to come to Kashgar, as Kashgar is a brilliant pearl.
Around the world, young people are leading a wave of protests against what they call corrupt governments, also lashing out at the growing inequality and a future that they feel is slipping away from them. The Gen Z-led movements have been shaking governments to their core, from the streets of Lima to Manila, from Kathmandu to Jakarta. In Peru, anti-government protesters took to the streets to voice their anger over a controversial pension reform and the government of the president, whose approval ratings have plummeted due to the rising crime and the scandals there. What started out as a rather peaceful demonstration quickly turned violent, with protesters throwing rocks and bottles at the police, who responded with tear gas and rubber bullets. And Peru is not alone. In the Philippines, protests erupted over a massive corruption scandal involving bogus flood control projects. Thousands of people, including young citizens, gathered in the streets of the capital to demand accountability, accusing the government of diverting billions in taxpayer money. And while the protest started out peacefully, tensions escalated into violence when protesters clashed with the riot police. The protest resulted in 72 arrests, including minors, and 39 police injuries. The young people are calling for the resignation of the officials involved in the corruption, they say. They are also demanding the government must finally address their concerns about jobs, inequality, lack of transparency, they allege. On to Indonesia. Anger over lavish government perks for officials led to protests last month, with young people demanding better treatment and an end to what they say is the corruption that's left them without jobs and a sense of future. The deadly protests began last week over housing allowances for lawmakers that are nearly 10 times the minimum wage in Jakarta, and they have forced the president and the parliament leaders to take a U-turn over the perks. Similar scenes were witnessed in Nepal. Protests there erupted, remember, after the government imposed a social media ban, sparking outrage among the young people who were already hit hard by high unemployment and limited opportunities. But the violence unleashed on the protesters by the security forces reportedly only aggravated the crisis. Demonstrators torched the parliament building, others set the houses of other political parties, some leaders, even Nepal's largest media house on fire. Protesters also broke into Oli's house and ransacked it. And the leader resigned a day later. In Bangladesh, a student-led movement in 2024 against discriminatory job quotas snowballed into a broader demand for the resignation of the Prime Minister, Sheikh Hasina. After months of peaceful protests and violent crackdowns by the security forces, which included the death of hundreds of civilians, the government eventually fell. On August 5, 2024, Sheikh Hasina fled the country, marking a historic win for the youth-led uprising. From Peru to Nepal, from Indonesia to Bangladesh, and now in the Philippines, Gen Z is not just a generation of using their voice, they're also becoming a generation of rebellion in some way. In every corner of the world, they are challenging the systems, demanding accountability from those in power. And for the first time in years, governments are realizing that youth protests cannot be taken lightly. Pakistan does not have much to celebrate these days. Cricket was once a source of joy for their citizens, but now it seems it gives the country nothing but more despair. On Sunday, Pakistan once again were well beaten by India on the cricket field. But rather than accepting the loss, this time the Pakistan cricketers stooped to a whole new low, one that has rarely been seen in international sport. As far as the cricket match goes, there was nothing new. You know the script. India face Pakistan, India win. It's like watching a movie and you already know the ending. One would imagine that these recurring defeats to India would anger and frustrate the Pakistan players. And on Sunday, it did. Some Indian cricket fans at the Dubai International Stadium were teasing Pakistani pacer Rauf. It was purely on cricket and the kind of banter that is very much a part of the game. But his reaction to those harmless chants was a reflection of the desperation and the delusion in Pakistan. Several videos on social media showing Rauf attempted to mock Indian fans with a gesture. Now that gesture seems to be a reference to Pakistan's baseless claims that they downed 6 Indian fighter jets during Operation Sindoor. And he did not stop there, by the way. He also seemed to mimic the crashing of planes, not once but twice. Such is the false propaganda in Pakistan that citizens and even cricketers are forced to believe in these ridiculous claims, which the Indian Army has constantly denied, remember. But to degrade a sporting event with hateful gestures shows that now even international cricketers have been reduced to puppets of the Pakistan Army. And their cricketers are performing the dual role of also being ambassadors of the Pakistan Army Chief, Asim Munir. Some cricket fans would also wonder whether the players were representing the country or the Pakistan Army. And now India captain Suryakumar Yadav also made a reference to Operation Sindoor during the first India-Pakistan match at the Asia Cup. But it was purely in solidarity with the Indian Armed Forces, not an unsavory gesture which attempted to mock an entire country, of course. Raw's actions were a gross violation of ICC rules and he faces a severe punishment from the governing body. But it is also a reflection of the mentality of the Pakistani cricketers and the army, who want to try and force a false narrative to the world, that too through a sporting platform. But the reality is this: Pakistan were well beaten on the battlefield during Operation Sindoor, and they were humiliated on the cricket pitch once again on Sunday. No matter how much you try and peddle a certain narrative, the reality will not change. We've all heard about hypnosis. This story is about hypnosis in an extraordinary setting. During a surgery, according to a report, a patient went through a deep brain simulation surgery, fully conscious, as a psychologist used hypnosis on the patient instead of anesthesia. Let me just say that again: hypnosis instead of anesthesia. For those unaware, hypnosis is described as a state of consciousness which involves focused attention and reduced peripheral awareness. It's basically characterized by an enhanced capacity for response to suggestion. And in this case, while the procedure was being performed, the patient in his mind was at a beach in Thailand. And why Thailand, you ask? The patient reportedly selected Thailand as the destination because he had been a tour guide and always wanted to visit the country. Before the neurosurgeon turned on the drill to make holes in his skull, the patient was hypnotized so he would not hear the noise. Imagine that. Basically, the patient was wide awake. That's right. Just for context here, the Parkinson's disease patient suffered from constant tremors and was not allowed to get medication close to the surgery, reportedly. So hypnosis helped him deal with the psychological stress and the fear, as per the report. Also, just for a better understanding of what went on, the procedure is performed while the patient is awake, to have real-time testing of whether electrode stimulation improves the symptoms, and also to make sure that there are no side effects, which can also be rectified immediately. During the procedure, the patient remained completely relaxed for 5 straight hours, despite the complexity of the surgery. Hypnosis has also been described as a powerful tool that helps to shorten and also improve medical treatment. Basically, it helps in releasing tension and managing discomfort and pain. It's not recommended for everyone, of course, but some say it could also be used as a supplementary tool in therapeutic approach, including cognitive behavioral therapy. Of course, it's up to the doctors and the experts to ascertain when hypnosis is appropriate, if at all. It's the new addiction in just about every home, every pocket, every pillow at night. Doom scrolling. And now British politicians are demanding a hard cap to protect children from the endless scroll on social media, with warnings as stark as cigarette packets. The question is, can governments stop the apps before they swallow an entire generation?
Parents everywhere are on the edge. The phone buzzes. A child scrolls. Minutes becomes hours. Doom scrolling doesn't sleep. And neither do the kids. UK politicians have called for a doom scrolling cap, a hard limit on the endless hypnotic feed of social media apps that traps and preys on young minds. Britain's Liberal Democrats are demanding that these platforms carry cigarette packet-style health warnings for anyone under 18. A direct admission that the likes of TikTok and Instagram are as dangerous and addictive as tobacco. It's a battle every parent already feels. Teachers report exhausted students nodding off in class. Doctors warn of anxiety, self-harm, and body image disorders tied to hours online. Families sit at dinner tables, each face lit by a separate screen. It's not just Britain, other nations are moving too. China already limits under 18s to just 2 hours of online gaming per day. France banned phones in schools. In the United States, Utah introduced strict parental consent laws for minors on apps. A global backlash is rising against tech giants who profit from keeping young minds trapped. For campaigners, the message is blunt. If tobacco got warnings, if alcohol got age caps, why should social media stay unregulated? The choice now sits with lawmakers, but for parents everywhere, the crisis is already here. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Anger is mounting in Egypt over the theft of an invaluable ancient gold bracelet from Cairo's Egyptian museum. Police have arrested a museum employee and 3 alleged accomplices, in fact. The historic piece was sold for just around $4,000 before being melted down, erasing a priceless part of Egypt's heritage. The theft occurred while the artifacts were being prepared for an exhibition abroad, exposing significant lapses in museum security procedures. Calls have grown to suspend overseas exhibitions until stronger protections are in place, and the incident has been described as a wake-up call for improved safeguarding of Egypt's invaluable antiquities. A remarkable 3,000-year-old gold bracelet dating back to the reign of Pharaoh Amenhotep of Egypt's 21st dynasty has captured the attention of historians and archaeologists alike. This elegant piece, featuring a gold band adorned with vibrant beads imported from what is now Afghanistan, was uncovered. While the design is fairly modest, the bracelet's gold alloy was crafted to resist damage, reflecting the ancient Egyptians' reverence for gold as the flesh of the gods. In fact, Egypt's cultural institutions have been hit by similar high-profile thefts in the past, one of the most notable ones involving Van Gogh's Poppy Flowers, valued at $55 million. The painting was stolen from a Cairo museum in 1977, resurfaced a decade later, but was stolen again in 2010 and is yet to be recovered. In a recent case last month, an Egyptian man received a 6-month prison sentence in the United States for smuggling nearly 600 looted artifacts onto the international market. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas Tonight. This is me, Molly Gambhir, signing off. Thanks for watching.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Prime Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Hello there and welcome to Pulse on WION World is One. We are glad you're watching. Thank you for joining us at this hour. I'm Eric Njoka. The headlines. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio meets with the Indian Minister of External Affairs S. Jaishankar on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly in New York. According to a report, physicians may be exempted from new H-1B visa fees days after the White House announced a new $100,000 fee for such visas that include case-by-case exemptions in the national interest. Russia offers to keep abiding by nuclear warhead limits agreed with the United States once a key treaty expires next year, but only for 12 months and if Washington does the same. The head of the United Nations nuclear watchdog, Rafael Grossi, says diplomatic efforts to resolve the dispute over Iran's nuclear program are at a difficult juncture. Striking dock workers block access to roads to ports in Italy, and violence flares at a pro-Palestinian protest in the center of Milan as unions staged a day of protest against Israel's Gaza offensive. The White House reveals for details of TikTok deal, says new ownership group will have American investors in majority. TikTok's algorithm will be overseen by Oracle in the US after the sale is completed. The Chinese city of Shenzhen evacuates 400,000 people and thousands of Filipinos seek shelter from gale force winds as Super Typhoon Ragasa heads on its collision course with southern China. This breaking is from Gaza. Hamas has written a letter to the United States President Donald Trump in which they have demanded a 60-day truce. In the letter, Hamas has said that it would release half of the hostages if Trump allowed a 60-day truce. Now, according to reports, the letter is currently being held in Qatar and will be given to Trump later in the week. The letter seeking Trump's intervention comes at a time when talks between Israel and Hamas remain stalled as Israeli forces continue to bombard the Gaza Strip. Civilian